The Eagles are Super Bowl champions, but what can the Marlins learn from their success? I'm going to tell you on today's Locked on Marlins.
You are Locked on Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked on Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. Make sure you go over to X, hit me up at Jeremiah Geiger 2, and thank you for making Locked on Marlins your first listen of the day, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, give me your thoughts on the Miami Marlins this season. And on today's show, the Philadelphia Eagles are the NFL Super Bowl champions. What can a baseball team learn from them? I'm going to tell you on today's episode. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. The Eagles have two things that I want to see the Marlins really implement as an organization. There are two aspects of this football team. This championship team that just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the greatest dynasties in football history, that stood out to me. Culture and development. Across all sports teams, there are two things that you need to have success at the highest level. It doesn't matter if you're a basketball team, a baseball team, or a football team. You need culture and development. Culture is when you have ingrained in your players, your coaching staff, your personnel, your staff across the entire board, your philosophy as an organization, so that everybody is on the same page. Everyone has the same goal. Person A isn't doing something over here while person B has no idea what he's doing and is doing the complete opposite thing. That is not what culture is about. Culture is where everyone is locked in on the same page. What follows culture is that players want to be here. They want to be a part of a healthy culture, a strong culture. And we saw that with the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley is one of the game's top superstar running backs. He came over to Philadelphia, was an MVP candidate, and leads them to a Super Bowl. Without Barkley wanting to be a part of this team, wanting to be a part of what they've built, I don't know if Philadelphia makes it. I would argue they don't. Star players want to be part of strong cultures. That's point number one. Point number two is when you have a strong culture that you've implemented in your organization and you get star players who want to be here. Doesn't even have to be star players. It can just be good players that you see their talent and maybe they're overlooked. Maybe they were passed by the rest of the NFL and they have a chip on their shoulder and they buy into your culture and you see their talent for what they are. It's finding the under the radar guys too, just as much as it's finding the star players. But those players are winners and they want to be in a culture that succeeds. You supplement that with a strong player development team from top to bottom. That is scouting. That is the people making the personnel decisions with undrafted international free agents in baseball, early draft picks, mid-round draft picks. The Eagles excel at that. That is what the Marlins need to focus on. A team that has struggled for years with building consistent and steady drafts and homegrown players. They need to emphasize that. Cooper DeJean, one of the Eagles' rookies, his first year in the NFL, gets a pick six in the Super Bowl. He was a second-round pick. The Marlins need to be hitting on first-round picks, second-round picks, third-round picks. Top to bottom, the scouting department needs to identify talent, bring that talent into the organization. With baseball, it's complicated with signing bonuses. Do you go above slot value, below slot value? You have to have everybody on the same page, make it a streamlined process, identify the best player available who you want, or if you're going to go the opposite route, you go when you want to sign someone in the second round, so you take a discount on someone in the first round. It's a little bit more complicated in baseball. But you get the players who you believe will make an impact in your system, and then you let the player development team and that entire department, everybody be on board to streamline the process from rookie ball or single A to the major leagues. Of course, it's not going to happen with every player. Of course, not every player is going to make an impact at the big league level. That's just not how baseball works. But what you can do is you supplement your homegrown talent with the stars, with the Saquon Barkley. You extend your homegrown talent. So for the Eagles, they extend Jalen Hurts. It would be unthinkable for him to walk in free agency. He was a second-round pick. They didn't have marquee superstars apart from Barkley. And yet they still played as a team. Complementary football. Same thing with baseball. Playing as a team, cohesion, unity, culture. The Marlins have a star in Sandy Alcantara. Look around him. The roster right now is disorganized. It's going through a rebuild. And who knows, Sandy Alcantara may not be a Marlin for the entire season. We saw the Marlins have multiple stars. Getting that culture, which they've lacked, and establishing a very strong player development program is how the Marlins can avoid the Stanton years again, how they can avoid another rebuild again. That's what I was thinking about after I watched the Super Bowl. How can I tie in football and America's greatest game into America's pastime with the Miami Marlins? It all goes back to those 2 points. Coming up next, the Marlins have a new Legends Hall of Fame, a team Hall of Fame. It's much, much too awaited. It's a long-awaited Hall of Fame that the Marlins have. I'm going to talk to you about those players involved coming up right after this. But first, I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. FanDuel's live betting feature keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether you're backing your team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, you will never feel like you missed your chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back into Locked On Marlins. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll be here every day talking Marlins baseball. The new Hall of Fame. It's been way too long. This franchise has waited way too long to establish a team Hall of Fame, but it is here in 2025. We're going to see 2 managers and 2 players, each being inducted on their own day. They're going to be celebrated, And it's good. It's great. It's great for the Marlins organization and these players and managers. Jeff Conine, Jim Leyland, Jack McKeon, and Luis Castillo are all the first inductees, the first class of 2025 into the Legends Hall of Fame, as it is called. Jack McKeon, Jim Leyland, two managers who each led the Marlins to their World Series championships. And I noticed this just looking at the list. The Marlins are focusing on players who brought team success. The two managers who won World Series championships, and then Luis Castillo and Jeff Conine, each of whom both won 2 World Series championships, the only 2 in Marlins history. Both those players were on those teams, both of those teams. So the Marlins are really focusing on players and managers who had an impact on World Series teams. And I love that for all of them. They are very well deserved. Luis Castillo, most games ever played in a Marlins uniform. He has the most hits in a Marlin uniform. Jeff Conine is second place when it comes to games played. So in terms of just from a Marlins standpoint, being in a Marlins uniform and seeing the field every day in a Marlins uniform, you have number 1, Luis Castillo, and number 2, Mr. Marlin. It says it in his nickname. Well deserved to both players. And of course, Jim Leyland, Hall of Fame manager, Jack McKeon, going on to beat the Yankees in one of the most improbable seasons in the 21st century. Blissful if you're a Marlins fan, but a great season nonetheless. It's awesome, and I cannot wait to see the dates and the games where they will be inducted. March 30th, we got Jeff Conine. July 6th, Jim Leyland. August 3rd, Jack McKeon. August 24th, Luis Castillo. So Mr. Marlin is going to be the first player celebrated in this new Hall of Fame. And then Jim Leyland in July. So we're going to have the spring. It's only going to be Jeff Conine. And we're going to wait all the way until just about the All-Star break, where over the span of about 6 weeks, we'll have Jim Leyland, Jack McKeon, and Luis Castillo all inducted. And I wonder for next year's Hall of Fame, the class of 2026, who will be the Marlins' new inductees? Could we see Gary Sheffield? Could we see Livan Hernandez? There's a couple really good names that I feel like definitely had a case to be inducted this year in the inaugural class. But when I really looked at it, and like I explained to you guys, every single one of these names contributed to a World Series championship. The managers, only one, yes, but the players, 2 each. I cannot think of any players more deserving from a team standpoint than Jeff Conine and Luis Castillo. Moving forward, it's going to be curious. Do the Marlins, how are they going to approach this team Hall of Fame? Is the class going to be the same size? Is it going to be smaller? Will there be years where we only have 1 or 2? But nonetheless, as much trouble sometimes as Marlins fans and myself give Bruce Sherman, this is a long overdue gesture, and credit to him for putting this out there. Credit to him for honoring the team's history when he wasn't even a part of this organization. Remember, Jeffrey Loria owned the team back in 2003 with Jack McKeon and Luis Castillo, Jeff Conine. And 1997, we're talking 28 years ago. Is my math right? Yeah. Wow. 2025 to 2028, 27 years ago. There we go. Wow. Anyway, so credit to Bruce Sherman for doing this for Marlins fans. I know I was excited to hear about that over the weekend with the Fan Fest festivities. They had the reveal. I wasn't able to make it, but I know a lot of you were, and I hope everybody out there had an awesome time at Fan Fest. team spokesperson said there were 18,000 people there. I don't know if that number's legit or not, but it seemed like everybody was having fun. There were a lot of players out there, and you got to see something really cool. You got to see this Hall of Fame news break. The City Connect uniforms I talked to you about in my last episode on Friday, unfortunately, I was wrong. I was very wrong. I thought that we were going to see the uniform reveal as a whole. I did not think that it would only be the date revealed. It would be May 3rd is going to be the first game the Marlins will wear the City Connects, but no details about the uniform are out. So that I was completely fooled on that. I thought that the Marlins were going to reveal the City Connects, the hat, the jersey, the pants. I was super stoked and excited for that. So that was a little bit disappointing. But, you move on. You move on. And it's something to look forward to. And now as football season has ended, baseball season is in full swing. Pitchers and catchers will be reporting on Wednesday. Their first workout will be Wednesday. But spring training games are just around the corner. And this season is right here. It's right upon us. And I cannot wait to see the Marlins play baseball again in Lone Depot Park. In MLB TV, we got it all. We got it all. It's so fun these times looking ahead to spring training and then opening day. Opening day is such a big deal to me, and I'm sure it's a big deal to all of you out there. So I would have liked to see these City Connect uniforms be revealed, but hey, it's all right. We still got baseball, and we're going to absolutely make the best of it. Pitchers and catchers getting to Jupiter. Their first workout is on Wednesday. I do have some news and notes about spring training, about pitchers and catchers reporting, and that's going to be coming up right after this. Reminder that I'll be right here on Locked On Marlins every single weekday, bringing you the best Marlins content, prospects, major league team, trade rumors. It's all going to be right here on Locked On Marlins. Pitchers and catchers, their first workout, is Wednesday. Is Wednesday, guys. It is right here. Baseball season is back. I tweeted out just a baseball emoji when the Super Bowl ended. It's here. What news do I have surrounding the Marlins specifically? There's a couple notes I got to get to. The first one being Andrew Nardi, left-handed reliever for the Marlins. I expect him to kind of be on pause, if you will, for his season debut. I don't know how long he's going to be out. All I know is Clayton McCullough, the new Marlins manager, said that he is a little bit behind. Those were his words, a little bit behind in terms of progression. It looks like he flared up an elbow injury in the offseason. So, of course, if you're a Marlins fan, you know all too well with elbow injuries how that can go. Tommy John surgery, Yori Perez, Braxton Garrett had UCL surgery last 2 months ago. This offseason, couple off seasons ago, we had Sandy Alcantara go down with Tommy John surgery, and I'm not speculating that Andrew Nardi needs Tommy John surgery, but what I am saying is that anything with an elbow is tricky. It's very tricky, and for an organization to handle it, you have to take as much precaution as possible. Nardi is probably the best reliever in terms of pedigree and sample size. I talked about Calvin Fauché before, who could be the closer. I've talked about Andrew Nardi as a really good setup man moving forward. I think that was kind of the projection for Andrew Nardi, left-hander, great stuff. So it sucks that he's going to be slowed down in his development to debut this season, but let's just make sure that there's no serious damage. Take it slow. There's no need to rush him. If he needs to miss the first 2-3 weeks of the season, again, all speculation, just get him back healthy. We don't want to see any long-term injuries happen with Nardi in what frankly is a big year for him, because the Marlins could be looking to trade Nardi. So not only is it a big deal for the Marlins and possibly getting something back in return for him, but for his prospects and earning another big contract one day. We don't want to see any injuries. Yori Perez coming off of injury says he's at 75%, and that's coming from Yori Perez. He says he's at 75%. He expects to be pitching after the All-Star break for the Marlins. So what I understood that to mean is he'll be rehabbing and making rehab starts in Jacksonville, most likely. Maybe you start him off in low A, but I would assume he would get a rehab start or two in Jacksonville. I don't know the plan with Yori, but again, the same thing with Andrew Nardi, but very much with Yori Perez is do not rush his health. If he shows any signs of fatigue or setbacks in his progress, you have to dial it back. Yori Perez is one of the most talented pitching prospects in baseball. When he came up in 2023, kind of took the MLB by storm. Have to be careful with him. He's still very, very young. Only 11 starts. Could be wrong on the exact number. Fact check me if I am. But 11 starts in a big league uniform in 2023. He was so talented. It was so unfortunate that he went down and had to get Tommy John surgery. But now coming back, it's great news that he's at 75%. Take it slow. I don't want to see Yuri Perez up here before July, to be honest. Make sure he's completely good to go. Get his workload back up. Get those rehab starts in May and June, whenever you feel comfortable, because the big leagues is a different game. And organizations, how you handle your star prize pitcher, it's super important for the Marlins to be locked in on that. Sandy Alcantara returning this season. He's good to go for opening day. Sandy, will he be on an innings limit? That's what I wonder. With the Marlins possibly considering him as a trade chip this season, how do they handle, his approach to the games? Because we've seen Sandy consistently go 7 innings, 8 innings, going the distance and pitching a complete game. I don't know if we're going to see that in April or May. Who knows? It looks like the organization internally, they have their plan how to approach Sandy and the innings coming off Tommy John surgery. But I can't wait till he's just allowed to go the distance and we see that first complete game from Sandy Alcantara, because I'll be rooting for it. It's tricky, though, again, with a player of his caliber. You want to protect him at all costs. The rotation behind Sandy, there's some question marks heading into pitchers and catchers reporting. The rotation is definitely not set. There's a lot of inconsistencies. I talked to you guys about the Marlins possibly getting a veteran starting option in the next coming days. It hasn't happened yet, but they still have names who want to compete. Max Meyer is coming off a tumultuous 2024 season. He started off really hot, kind of cooled down, ended up going back to the minors after his hot start, came back up, was really cold, and he's got a lot to prove. He's a former 3rd overall pick. He wants to prove he's a starter. Peter Bendick said he believes in him as a starting pitcher. I don't know what the Marlins will do with Edward Cabrera if he struggles. Edward Cabrera is a lot like Max Meyer in terms of really good stuff, but hasn't been able to put it all together at the major league level. It's a little bit more different with Edward Cabrera because I think he has better stuff than Max. Max still has great stuff. He has an elite slider. But the question with Edward Cabrera is control. The question with Max Meyer is consistency as a starter. Should we move him to the bullpen? Because the fastball, there needs to be adjustments there. The changeup needs some adjustments. From a pure stuff standpoint, Edward Cabrera is definitely ahead of Max Meyer, in my opinion, but he needs to control his stuff, and he has no options remaining. And that's a big deal with Edward, because if he struggles, you have to make a decision. Do you just let him work through his struggles? How does that affect his confidence on the mound? Do you move him to the bullpen? There's so many different variables, but what you can't do is just say, let's work with you in the minor leagues. Let's reset, and then you come back up, because they've done that before. He struggled with command. They've taken him out. He's gone to the minors. He's come back. No more options. I have hope for both of those pitchers, Cabrera and Max Meyer, but they need to have really good spring trainings, and we need to see adjustments be made. You can't just be doing the same thing. Edward Cabrera, why are you struggling with command? Is it a mechanical flaw? Is it the failure to repeat your mechanics? They have a new pitching coach. The Marlins have a new pitching coach. A ton of new people in the building, in the organization. We'll be watching them. Use the analytics. Use every tool at your disposal if you're the Marlins, because they're still really good arms. So behind Sandy, Max Meyer, Edward Cabrera, Ryan Weathers, there are still some questions with that rotation. We have Adam Major possibly being a name to consider in the rotation. Valente Belloso, one of the best names in the Marlins organization. Valente Belloso, he could be the Marlins' fifth day opening day roster, the fifth starter. So there's a lot to watch for. Watch these spring training starts. I'm going to be watching these spring training starts. Watch the location. Try to see, are they adjusting? Are they making any mechanical changes? Time is going to tell, and it will be starting this week, because that is when the workouts start. The first workout of the season, of the 2025 season for all the Marlins pitchers and catchers, will be this Wednesday. Can you believe it? It's already here. I want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Wherever you do, make sure you like, subscribe, leave your comments, leave all your thoughts on Miami Marlins. I'll be right here with you tomorrow when I'm going to talk about the NL East. It's going to be an NL East preview. Marlins, Nationals, Mets, Braves, Phillies. How do the Marlins stack up in regards to these teams? Stay safe, and let's go fish.